You're going to hear a lot of people when they're talking about working on various kinds of media, talking about how it's taboo to reference yourself a lot. And you're going to have to allow me to disagree with that because I do. Here's the thing, here's the sort of reality that comes along with life. The more experienced you get, the more chance there is that you're going to have personal situations that you've dealt with that allow you to help people to better understand their world. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to sit here and make it my business to talk about myself consistently throughout the time that I'm, doing the various videos that I'm doing. In fact, you're going to find lots of times I won't talk about myself at all. But my point here is to say this. One of the things that people maybe don't like, but it doesn't change the reality, is that when you live life and when you've been through a bunch of things, done a bunch of things, you gain experiences that will be helpful to other people. And that's why when you hear me talk periodically, I will reference things that have happened in my personal life. And the funny thing about it is I think really the kind of more successful people, at least on the right, and I think that this is maybe true overall, I don't know, but I certainly think from the folks that I've heard on the right, will talk about their own experiences a lot. The important thing to me is you don't whine about it. You don't belabor things. You just talk about what's important, and hopefully the things that you learn in the course of your time will be helpful to people. And let me just tell you, this is not just true if you happen to be making a video or if you're doing stuff on radio or whatever it happens to be. It's true for everybody. People don't want to be bored by your experiences. But if your experiences are exciting, are interesting, then first of all, you don't really have to worry about that so much. On top of that, lots of times if you make sure that what you're doing is what a lot of people refer to as relatable, what you'll find is that you'll have stuff to say that people will go, oh yeah, see what you're saying, get where you're going. Now, one important realization is that what you go through, even though it may look a lot the same as what somebody else does, doesn't mean it is the same, right? There may be some or more than one, there may be one or more than one significant difference between what you go through and what other people do. So you have to be really careful about that as well. But my point, what I'm sort of getting at here, really isn't about myself. It's about the idea that people tend to think that if you talk about yourself, you're being self-centered. And I want to be, crystal clear on something. I want to be, totally plain. The reality is if I talk about myself, it is in an attempt to relate to other people's circumstances and to get other people to understand what they need to consider and so forth as they go along. I was not raised with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't have a bad childhood. I had an okay childhood. And my parents weren't rich. They weren't even what most people would consider well off, but we were okay. We were not anything like poor. So it wasn't bad. Look, I grew up in Australia and Hawaii. If you want to meet somebody who actually had some interesting times as a child, and quite frankly, some more as they became an adult, I'm right there, okay? But what I want for you to understand is I've worked in cleaning jobs. I literally I scrubbed floors with steel wool. I've done that. Okay, I've carried rug ductors and buffers upstairs in university dormitories in Hawaii. Just various things that I've done. I've sticked fuel tanks at gas stations. I've ordered stock at gas stations. I've, just a number of things that I've done. And then again, I have a little bit sort of higher end experience. I won't call it, super high end like a lot of folks. It's just sort of, not major super high end stuff that I do that kind of makes my life to where I can give you maybe a heads up on things that are coming down the road if you're a little bit younger. But the point is this. There's nothing wrong with talking about yourself so long as you're not being self-indulgent, egotistical, megalomaniacal, sociopathic, right? Any of the standard no-nos that you don't want to do. It's okay to talk about yourself to other people. In fact, opening up and talking about yourself might actually sort of make you appear a little bit more vulnerable, and you might actually be so. For me personally, you throw the stones that you want. I'm getting old enough now to where I don't really care if people throw stones at me. So one of the things that's sort of a perk of age is you become a little bit more shameless, I guess. Look, I've had kids break down crying in supermarkets, okay? And it wasn't really devastating to me at the time, but it certainly isn't now, right? I've had circumstances where people yelled at me and told me I was a racist and various other things. So it's not like I'm one of those people who's thin-skinned. If you don't like that I talk about myself, I urge you to tell me that you don't like it and to tell me why. But I will say this, whether or not you think it's important, I'm pretty sure if you've gained any experience, if there's any water under your little bridge, it's probably a good thing for you to talk to other people from your perspective. And I'm not saying you should relate everything that's going on in their life to your little world, because that's not how that works. But when there's something that's really closely related, or when you can say, well, I went through this or I went through that, I don't know if it's much like what you went through, but here's what I experienced, I think a lot of people find that helpful and useful. Don't assume that talking about yourself, whether it's on videos, whether it's on the radio, whether you're just talking to people in public settings or private settings, don't assume that talking to yourself is a bad thing. I'm not saying you should take over conversations with what you're saying about yourself. But if you hear me talking about myself, it's because I think I have something useful to interject, and the thing that I'm putting in there has to do with my personal experience. And if I can't speak from my personal experience, what exactly can I speak from? I mean, I can try and look at what other people have gone through and try and tell you about that. But the truth is, there's always the chance that I'll miss something or get something wrong when I do it. That's why when I speak from personal experience, I think it can be a better thing if it really relates to what somebody's dealing with or whatever, because I actually have a more complete picture of exactly what happened in a given situation or circumstance. So, if you're thinking that me talking about myself is a bad thing, I'm sorry to hear that, because you're probably going to hear more of that as I go along in my little time doing various videos and other things that I do. That doesn't mean, like I say, that I'm going to sit here and relate everything to me. And it doesn't mean that every time I speak or whatever, I'm going to do likewise. I might not. I might not mention myself at all in a given presentation. But I'm going to say this again. You almost certainly have things to bring to other people that are relatable from the experiences that you've had in your life. Don't be afraid to bring out your experience and to say, look, I'm not, you might say, I'm not sure this is exactly what you're dealing with. In fact, I'm pretty sure it probably isn't, but at least it'll give you some ideas about some things that you might experience or might have experienced, and how to deal with them better next time, or how to deal with them when you see them in future, whatever, right? And that's important too. Like I say, bemoaning your past, ruining your past, you can sort of do that. Boy, I wish I hadn't have done this or whatever. But the point in the long run is to look towards the future and to help other people to do likewise. Because for the most part, when you're looking at the past, all of that stuff's done. It's all done. So talking about it now, other than trying to fix things that have happened along the way, I'm pretty sure you're wasting time. You're just spinning wheels at that point. So again, here's sort of the encapsulation of what I'm saying, because I'm running up on time pretty quickly here. You may hear me talk about myself when I do my videos. You may hear me talk about myself in person if you happen to talk about me. If I happen to get a chance to write something, you may see me talk about myself when I write. But what I really want for you to understand is, mostly I'm trying to do that in such a way that other people can relate to me. And that is what I believe you should be doing. Again, no megalomaniacal stuff, no egotistical stuff, no, oh, look at me stuff. I'm not interested in any of that these days. I really just want to help other people with their lives and see what I can do to get them to understand how they can make things better in their futures. All right, I'm about done for today. As I say, today is March the 8th, and it is Monday, and it's 2021 this year, of course. Thanks for everybody who's on Rumble, on the YouTube, on YouTube and on podcast. I don't think I actually said that this is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, Kurt. Today is Monday, the 8th of March of 2021. Like I say, that means tomorrow will be Tuesday, the 9th of March of 2021. The subject of this video was talking about yourself, talking about myself, in case you haven't figured that out by this point. Tomorrow's subject will be lock them up, and I will talk about the idea that that's really a pretty ridiculous thing to say in most circumstances. Hope you're having a good day today. We're starting to get nice spring weather here, and hopefully we will get a chance to see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Monday, March 8th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.